The next company we have presenting is Cluey Learning. After listing in December last year with a market cap of around 140 million, Cluey continues to make significant strides in the Australian tutoring market, which it tackles with its digital-only offering. I'm excited to have co-founder and CEO Mark Rohald presenting with us here today. Since launching its first online tutoring service in July 2018, Cluey has significantly expanded the breadth and depth of its offering to cover multiple subjects to students across years 2 to 12 via both one-on-one and small group learning sessions. Technology forms the backbone of Cluey's scalable platform, which just delivered over 61,000 student sessions across the March quarter. To tell us more about the company's technology offering and growth outlook, I welcome Mark.
Thank you very much, Alex. Let's just get the slide deck to move. I'm going to start off, for those who are not familiar with the Cluey business, by giving you a brief overview of who we are and what we do. As most of us know, we've seen transformational shifts in post-schooling education through the use of the internet, big data, and learning analytics. But when it comes to school-based learning, we're pretty much stuck in this industrialized model, where we put the same age children in the same class, learning the same content, going at the same pace with the same teacher. And on the other side of the equation, we know through extensive in-school and standardized testing, so in Australia we have NAPLAN in years 3, 5, 7, 9, and the year 12 final school leaving exams, that every child is at a different place in their learning journey. And so there's this logical disconnect between what students need and how teaching and learning is delivered. The Grattan Institute's done some really interesting research on this, and in fact, the proportion of students who perform outside the median increases each year after year 3. I often hear people express concern about the learning gaps that have been created during COVID. But in fact, the Grattan Institute estimates that the existing achievement gap is more than 10 times greater than the gap created by COVID learning disruptions alone. So the problem's been around for a long time, and it's getting progressively worse. And schools have tried to deal with this through the use of technology, but in the main, they've failed to make headway for really 2 key reasons. Firstly, they've tried to leverage what we call asynchronous learning, one-way learning, that's been the path used in post-schooling education where online has become very successful. All the evidence we now know points to the fact that self-directed adult learners like you and I can work well asynchronously one way, but for school-aged children, they need to work synchronously. They need the two-way communication in order to maintain engagement. The second reason why they've failed to make much headway in the classroom with technology is because the traditional school system, the model, simply isn't designed to embrace data and learning analytics, which, to be effective, needs an all-of-school and all-of-student approach. Even the most devoted and competent teacher trying to teach a single subject to a specific class cannot possibly harness the power of data and learning analytics effectively. I mean, at the end of the day, how many schools have got data scientists in the school? And you simply can't expect teachers to trawl through extensive learning data looking for the optimal learning solution. So as a result, parents and students have turned outside the classroom to try and address their specific and individualized learning support. And it's important to note that the school market is really large. There are approximately 4 million students in schools in Australia. In contrast to this, there are about 1.5 million students in universities in Australia. And of these 4 million, nearly 1.6 million are currently using or considering using tutoring in the next 12 months. And on top of this, there's a further 2 million students who are using other forms of paid or unpaid learning support. And for those who need the support, there are really 2 options: tutoring or other forms. And when it comes to tutoring in the main, the options available up until now have also been pretty limited and industrialized. You either go to the local learning center, which is just a better version of a classroom, or you engage a private tutor, a uni student or a teacher. You go to their home or they come to your home. And we refer to those as the pay and pray model. You have absolutely no idea what they're doing with your child and whether or not it's effective. And as we looked at this problem, it became clear to us that there must be a much better way to personalize and optimize high quality learning for school students that can leverage scalable technology and infrastructure. And it's important to note that when we saw this optimal model as one that combines both the human element and the technology element, neither of which stand on their own. And this is critical because we know school-age kids need to learn synchronously, in other words, two ways. So what is the Cluey model? What do we do? For us, the optimal teaching and learning model is much more than just about matching a tutor and a student. For great teaching and learning to happen, you need 4 key elements. First of all, you need a comprehensive learning plan personalized for each individual student with all the relevant content fully mapped, scoped, and sequenced to the curriculum in that learning plan. Then you need to match the student with the right tutor, a guide or a mentor, someone who's highly cognate in the discipline and a great communicator to guide the student through their learning plan, fully synchronously and online. And then to reinforce the concepts that they've learned, you need to provide targeted practice between each learning session. And then you need to measure every learning interaction in order to optimize the learner experience. You need to analyze exactly what the student knows, what the student doesn't know, and then you need to use this data to deliver detailed reporting and feedback, and then recalibrate their learning program every week. And all the quality assurance needs to be driven through data. All tutor matching must be algorithmically determined, and all learning progress must have data at its core so that you can then also optimize and automate all processes and workflows. And you need all of that to happen simultaneously in order to be able to scale the model. And the key to all of this is that we've designed, developed, and built all the infrastructure that enables our business to deliver high quality services at scale. Our infrastructure is designed to capture data on every customer and learning interaction. For example, we collect over 100,000 data points in every learning session. And we're building a data lake that powers continuous improvements in our student learning, ability to match tutors most effectively, and the development, service optimization, improvements, and then to drive the unit economics of the business. And when it comes to thinking about how we use the data, we kind of think about it in 3 main contexts. There's the educational side, where we capture the data throughout the learning process on students, tutors, and every interaction. And this data enables us to understand exactly what the students are working on and how. So for example, we can tell if they spent 13 minutes during their session on Thursday working on establishing a particular element in common denominators in fractions, which content and examples they used and in what sequence, how they performed in every question, what preceded that concept, what they did next, how active the student was relative to the tutor, whether the tutor assigned additional practice for the student, and how the student performed in their work. And today we do this automatically for every student and every tutor interaction with Cluey. And why do we do it? Because it provides clarity to students, parents, and tutors in terms of where their time and effort is being spent. It guides academic focus, what students need to be working on and what they need to do next. It guides improvements to how tutors need to support their students. And it improves the efficacy and quality of all elements of our services. And the opportunity for us is to continue to improve the quality and timeliness of this guidance, lifting the standard and quality of service that we can provide to any student way beyond anything that can be achieved by a tutor or content or platform alone. And in terms of the unit economics, we're using the data and learning analytics to optimize the matching of students to tutors. This helps us reduce churn, optimize the delivery of value, and increase LTV, or lifetime value. So how do we actually use the data? It's one thing capturing vast amounts of data. It's another thing being able to turn this data into meaningful insights. So we use our data, our learning data, to bring together both activity and context. And I'll try and work through an example of how we do some of this. In the top left side of the slide, there's a visual snapshot of the data that we record in one single hour of learning. This data includes the separate video tracks, audio tracks, the content usage, how much and who is using the digital whiteboard and the amount of time spent on each micro activity. And given we built the entire Australian curriculum for years 2 to 12 in maths, English and chemistry for years 11 and 12, we know exactly how this content maps to the concepts and topics in the curriculum. We then use different elements of this data to analyze a range of teaching and learning efficiency and effectiveness. So, for example, in the right-hand panel, you can see we're able to use this data to exactly analyze the performance of the tutor in that session. We know how much time the tutor spent talking, the ratio of student versus tutor talking, the time spent by both the student and the tutor working on different elements of content, for example, theory or worked example or practice. We know the order in which the content was consumed. We know if there was a deviation from the curriculum. If so, what was the deviation and where, and how much improvisation may have been done by the tutor in the session. And we also track all the data in relation to the usage of the digital whiteboard, as well as the learning goals that were set for the session and whether these were covered and achieved. And today we do this automatically for every session using our AI and analytics capabilities. And now in this slide, I'll show you how we use the data to turn the insights into learning outcomes for our students. We automatically analyze what and how a student is learning in every session, and we're able to demonstrate the level of mastery at every granular level of the curriculum. In the left-hand side of the slide, you're actually seeing a dashboard visual representation of the data that we collect from a single hour of student learning. We know what content was consumed and by whom. We know in what order. We know the questions they got right and what they got wrong, whether they worked independently or were assisted by the tutor, and how they performed in their practice and ability to demonstrate. And we can click on any point in that session, and this opens up a video of the learning that occurred at that instance. We're then able to take this data and turn this into what we call a mastery map, which we show on the right-hand side. And that mastery map is a way in which we can demonstrate what the student knows, what the student doesn't know, and what the student needs to learn next in order to absolutely master the syllabus. And we then use this information to update the student's learning program and the practice for their next session. And it's by doing this that we're able to optimize and personalize the learning journey for every single one of our students. And by using the data and learning analytics and AI, we're effectively able to scale our business and provide consistently high quality learning. And we're able to optimize each student's learning in a way that individual tutors or teachers acting on their own can never do. Today, we're using this data to effectively improve the quality and efficacy of our service, from every session's quality through to our student-tutor matching, the content and the setup of their individualized learning plans, the calibration of that content, what level they're at, through to reporting and feedback. And from my perspective, I think we're just at the beginning of this journey with a real possibility for new applications that can really deliver a game changer in learning optimization. And I'll try and give you some example of what I'm thinking about. We're moving towards further optimization of our student-tutor matching based on a range of criteria, including data points that indicate to levels of engagement with certain tutor types, specific learning goals, and specific types or levels of performance. And we're now at the point where we're starting to optimize the learning live in the session rather than post-session. As our systems and AI are able to monitor the performance of the student and the tutor live in the session, our system can actually drive recommendations to improve the learnings and levels of engagement. For example, live in the session, we can automatically recommend that the tutor changes the learning program or the level of the question to become more, to be the next question to be more difficult or easier based on how the student is performing live in that session. Or we can hint that the tutor should slow down or ask the student more questions. And it's at that point that we can drive optimal personalization and great levels of engagement, which ultimately means retention and lifetime value. We know the way we're using data today is probably more advanced than anything we've seen anywhere else in the world. And it's due to the fact that we've linked all the key elements of the learning, the human element, the content, the learning environment, the data capture, all in one place, all working in unison. So from our perspective, I think our view is that this is and will continue to become our core competitive advantage. You know, initially people used to say to me, what is your competitive advantage? And I used to say it's our technology or our content or our learning methodology. Today, I think with enough money and time, they can replicate the tech stack, they can replicate our content. What they can't replicate is our data, the scale of that data, and the way we're able to use it. And I think over time, we'll be leaning more and more on that data as the key driver of our competitive advantage.